The current economic realities in Nigeria has seen market share of the automobile industry dip 37.5% to 250,000 vehicles from a previous 400,000. Now, Aminu Jalal, Director General of the National Automotive Council, joins me to discuss the dynamics impacting Nigeria's automobile industry. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Jalal. Taking a look at this sector, we, of course, just, took a look at the numbers there. We're seeing, of course, that demand, the market size dipped from 400,000 to 250,000 per annum. Can you just tell us more about what's happening in Nigeria's automobile industry in the face of this recession?
The automobile is the second largest expenditure for people after house. So obviously, when you have some economic problems, the market usually also suffers, because people who have a vehicle usually want to change, continue to use it, and those who want to buy a new one will probably continue to use mass transit. So this always happens. But we hope that in future, when we go out of the recession and start to grow, then the vehicle market will grow together again.
All right. But, besides the recession, we're hearing about these figures now, of course, owing to the recession and the fact that this number is really on the high side. But before the recession, can you just give us a clearer picture of how the automobile industry has fared over the years?
Yes. Actually, from around 2010 to around 2013, that market was roughly 400,000 annually, both new and used. But in 2014, actually, the market went to over 700,000, mostly because the new automotive policy was announced in 2013. But some of the provisions, the tariff issues, was to come up in late 2014. So people bought in anticipation that fully built units will have higher tariffs. So we have a spike. But by 2015, the market went back down to around 350,000, 300,000. And now, this year, we're expecting the market will be roughly around 250.
And just tell us, what has been the picture really for our automobile industry? Has it been a sector that has depended mostly on imports over the years? Was there any time when that sector, was self-sustainable? Was there any time Nigeria's automobile sector, manufactured its own parts, assembled its own cars? Where were we in the past and where are we now?
In the past, in the 70s and early 80s, we actually had a robust vehicle manufacturing sector where we are making, assembling both cars and commercial vehicles. And local content in some of the cars was actually reached up to 40%. Items like the glasses, the tires, the seats, the carpets, the cables, the radiators, bumpers, and so on were made locally. Unfortunately, if you recall, from 1985 to around 1998, we had something similar to what we are experiencing now. So at that time, the market for new vehicles collapsed. And at that time, before that recession, at that time, we were making over 100,000, assembling over 100,000 vehicles. But when the market collapsed in 85, 86, that's when we started to buy used vehicles because our purchasing power also dropped. So the demand for vehicles actually started to grow from around 1998, 1999 until it reached around, by 2010, around that 400,000 units. That is why the government brought this automotive policy in 2013, whose main purpose is to, one, bring back the automotive assembly operations, because by 2013, it has virtually stopped almost all the assembly operations, except for some few commercial vehicles. They have all closed down. So it was to bring it back, develop local content, so that we can once more become a vehicle manufacturing nation.
Now, just tell us more about this automotive policy of 2013. What are the provisions? What does that policy entail that will make it easy to bring back assembling and also, of course, improve and increase local content?
Yes, the policy has many elements, about 5 elements to ensure its successful implementation. The first one, of course, is on skills development, so that we can have adequate manpower, both at a higher level, that is at the university level and also the mechanics, so that they have understanding of the new vehicle technologies, and then they can repair and maintain them and also produce them. The other one is to look at standards. So where we have produced some, together with National Automotive Council Nigeria, we have adapted some international safety standards for vehicles, and we are currently building laboratories where these standards can be tested. The items can be tested to ensure that they conform with these standards. The other one is to develop the market for the new vehicles. These include issues like some tariffs on fully built vehicles, while some inputs like the semi-knockdown and the complete knockdown had very low tariffs. In fact, complete knockdown can be imported at 0 duty, while the semi-knockdown can become at 10% duty. But the fully built ones, who just come in fully built, have higher duty. The other one is some issues to tackle the smuggling of vehicles, whereby vehicles go to our neighboring countries and are brought in and registered without paying the proper duty. So we are collaborating with other agencies like the Customs Service to make sure that we have a check on that, so that we can develop the market. There is the patronage issue also, so government is committed to patronize the products of the Nigerian industry. So that way we hope will divert the market from imported products to the local products. Of course, we have the local content program also, whereby we are establishing supply parks. We are working with some consultancy firms to do benchmarking studies, so that we can upgrade the local spare parts manufacturers to the level where they can supply the local industry. The earlier parts I mentioned we are making, these companies are still here, and some of them are still operating. But we need to upgrade their technology, their production systems, so that they can meet the new standards of the industry. The other aspect of local content development is to try to also bring those people, companies already supplying the assembly plants overseas, to come to Nigeria, because they have already been vetted by these automotive companies. So it will be easy for them to come and, either on their own or in partnership with Nigerians, to set up here and supply the automotive industries.
You just created a very clear picture on where this Nigeria's automobile industry had been in the past, talking about the fact that, of course, there was a boom in that sector owing to low purchasing power. What we call, of course, fairly used cars dominated the early 80s, the late 80s to early 90s. Now we are faced with a recession. Is it safe to say that all you have mentioned in this automotive policy is the new strategy going forward, or is there much more?
No, we are continuing to implement this strategy. In fact, one of the other ones we are trying to do to develop the market is this financing program, vehicle financing program, which is more affordable than the current system with banks. We hope to, our partner will soon get the license from the Central Bank of Nigeria, so that we can launch the program.
Now, I'm also very interested in, of course, talking about promoting auto engineering skills. That's one of the points you mentioned under the automotive policy. But that's been a long time coming. I mean, with the high demand of cars in Nigeria, one would expect to see a well-settled and well-positioned automotive sector. But, taking a walk around most, automobile workshops in Nigeria, you still have them, yes, in clusters. You still have most of them underdeveloped. And also taking a look at kind of modern cars coming into the markets today, you find out that there is a lack of skills to actually, address the problems that come with most of these cars. Most of the mechanics in Nigeria as well, more people who, of course, learned through apprenticeship, rather than actually having a certified institution, to train and ensure that these mechanics are up to date. Let us really talk about that space. I mean, there is a proliferation of, underskilled mechanics in Nigeria. How does the council hope to address this to ensure that the market is dominated by skilled and professional mechanics?
Yes, one of the first things we did, realizing that our mechanics really couldn't understand modern vehicle technologies, was to do a skill survey. We did that in 2008, where we did a survey of the mechanics nationwide. There are almost 2 million mechanics actually we have. And we found out that some very serious shortcomings. The first one is the curriculum that they used to teach them date back from the 1960s, while the vehicle technology has changed drastically. The second one is that they don't have much understanding of the new vehicle technologies like mechatronics, these new mechanical systems that are coming up now with sensors, actuators, and controllers with software and so on. So they don't understand those ones, especially the electrical parts. Even their workshop practices, they have very poor workshop practices and so on. So that was why we set up a task force of some experts to review the curriculum. And this was done in 2010. We had a new curriculum to teach mechanics, this new vehicle technology. And we also developed the textbooks to cover the curriculum. And we have been using that to teach mechanics, and we have given it out to all the institutions and other agencies, especially the mechanical associations. We have about 2 or 3 of them, the NATA, National Automotive Council associations. We work with them. The MOMTA, that is Motor Vehicles Technicians Association of Nigeria. And we have been, within that time, we have trained over 5,000 of those mechanics in new vehicle technology. And because the technology is going very fast, it's changing. Just this year, we reviewed that technology because 5 years ago it's already a bit outdated. That's so it was reviewed this year. We soon have a creative workshop to finalize the curriculum, which will be used as from next year. So yes, we are on track to ensure that our mechanics do keep pace with modern technology. And in some instances, like when we did training for former Shuapi, and we trained 2,000 mechanics for them, they were also given some of the tools, the diagnostic tools and so on, which they can use to practice.
That's a very interesting point that you have raised. But my concern now is, do you think this curriculum is really trickling down to all mechanic workshops? I mean, there are mechanics at every corner you turn to in in Nigeria. Are they really following these directions through? I'm trying to build up this picture to understand that we have all this captured if we really aim to achieve the goal of increasing patronage of made in Nigeria auto parts and even vehicles. If already this picture you've painted exists at the moment, do you think that's enough to work up the confidence of Nigerians to patronize rather made in Nigerian cars when we finally achieve assemblage in the country? But I'm just going to ask you to hold on to that thought. We're going to talk about more of this after the break. I've been speaking to Aminu Jalal, Director General of the National Automotive Council. Still on our discussion on Nigeria's automobile industry. My guest is Aminu Jalal, Director General of the National Automotive Council. Thank you so much for staying with us, Aminu. Now, just before the break, we're talking about the fact that, do you think that the current state of things, the current state of skills in Nigeria's automobile sector is enough to work up confidence of Nigerians in patronizing made in Nigeria cars or even made in Nigeria auto parts? What's your take on this?
Yes, I think Nigerians can feel confident that in many situations they will have mechanics who are really conversant with the new technology. On our own case, we have also identified over 30 technical institutions that are teaching mechanics formally, and we have given them the curriculum. We have even done some training the trainers for them. Then we have some workshops. We have done a survey of workshops that can teach this curriculum. We have identified, that was about 4 years ago, about 250 workshops nationwide that can teach this curriculum. And again, for their staff, we did training the trainer for them. And currently, we are using some of them. Right now, we are training about 1,000 mechanics nationwide in this new vehicle technology. Interesting. So we are confident that in the last 5 years, people who go to mechanics know that the mechanics are a bit more understanding. The knowledge our mechanics have of these new vehicles in the last 5 years have changed.
All right, then we'll just keep looking forward to see how that unfolds. Now, just talk us through this Auto Development Fund scheme. We hear a sum of about 13 billion naira has been disbursed to the 32 companies. What companies are we referring to here, and what is that money set out to achieve?
The automotive industry requires long-term, low-interest funds. But as you know, in the Nigerian banking system, you're talking about interest rate around 21 to 22%. Obviously, any manufacturing enterprise cannot really use those funds. So together with we discussed with the Bank of Industry. I mean, this program started actually since 2005, almost 11 years ago. So we started with the Bank of Industry, whereby through the Bank of Industry, we provided these soft loans. Currently, the interest rate is 7.5%, can be up to 5 years duration with a 1-year moratorium. The companies that have benefited include those making batteries, tires, brake pads and linings, filters, lubricants, plastic and rubber parts, and so on. And some in the past were even given some for to set up assembly operations, both motorcycle assembly and vehicle assembly.
Interesting. Now talk us through that motorcycle assembly you just mentioned right now. How is that space faring? I know I did visit a market once in Anambra State a couple of years back, and you could actually find, of course, a large sale of most of these components for motorcycle parts, even production, going on in that market. How is that space faring over time? How well are they performing in view of the loans that have been given so far?
Well, actually, the motorcycle industry, usually in the 70s, it was the Japanese companies, Suzuki, Kawasaki, Honda, that have set up. But as you know, by the 1990s, because of the devaluation of the currency and the low purchasing power, those Japanese vehicles or motorcycles became not affordable. So I think sometime around 94, 95, 96, we were actually importing second-hand motorcycles. But sometime in the late 90s, people started to bring motorcycle parts from China and started to assemble locally and do some of the local parts you saw. They will bring some CKD. So those Chinese motorcycles became affordable. So by 2003, we were actually selling about 1 million motorcycles a year. The market was 1 million. Then Indian motorcycles started to come in also. So both Chinese and Indian motorcycles are currently being imported with some local parts incorporated, especially the plastic parts that are being incorporated locally. The sector had some issues some years back because of security concern in the north, where some states, especially in Borno State, banned the use of motorcycles. They're living in the south also. There was a time they were banning motorcycles in towns, in major towns, because of security concerns. So there was a drop around 2010, 2013. But I think the market is still picking up. So we have gone back to about 1 million motorcycles in a year. Then the tricycles started to come up, especially when some states in the major towns banned motorcycles. They promoted tricycles. So now the tricycle market is roughly 300,000 units in a year. And the motorcycles actually were even exporting to neighboring countries, though this is informally.
Interesting. Now, of course, when we talk about working up or reviving assembling of cars in Nigeria, no doubt that will create lots of job opportunities. So my question is, how well positioned is the automobile sector today to handle car assemblage in Nigeria?
Actually, we are quite doing very well with car assembly. We are doing, mostly they are doing semi-knockdown, but Fuji Automobile in Kaduna is fully equipped to do completely knockdown. They are just wanting to boost their volumes before they can go to complete knockdown operations. But Innocent in Inewi is already producing cars through completely knockdown parts. So we are quite conversant with that. It's not a problem at all. So our emphasis actually in the council has shifted to development of local content, because we do have enough investors in assembly operations.
But of course,
already the capacity, we have a capacity of over 300,000 vehicles in one shift right now.
Interesting. That's really a very good point you raised, because when I interviewed the MD of Toyota Tsusho earlier this year, of course he did say that for you to have a proper car assemblage plant in any country, there should be that demand for at least 100,000 units of that car. There should be, of course, a high demand of course, the part manufacturers, or rather readily available car parts manufacturers in the country. Innocent, yes, we have read his story over and over. We've seen the cars coming from Innocent, but then there's always been that skepticism about made in Nigeria goods. Innocent on his own is also facing low patronage, yes, or even demand for cars. We still have, Nigerians buying cars from neighboring countries, or even buying cars from, of course, outside, the continent as well. How do you plan to work up that patronage? How do you plan to address the low patronage of made in Nigeria goods, especially when it comes to cars? The average Nigerian man likes his cars.
Yes, actually, that's why we are banking on this financing scheme we are trying to set up with West Bank of South Africa, whose major activities involve financing car purchase, both in South Africa and some African countries also. This has been on we have been working for the last 2 years, but we hope we will soon get the partner company will soon get the CBN license, and then we can launch it up. Because all over the world, really, you cannot have a viable vehicle market without financing. Even in America, I think last year, 80% of vehicle purchases was financed by financial institutions. And we are aware also, they themselves, the automotive industry, almost all of them have vehicle financing arms, where they provide finance for people to buy their products. And we're hopeful when our own industry matures, they will also come in with their financing schemes.
Now, I really want to understand how this is really going to work out. Okay, let's assume all things being equal, we have more cars being manufactured here locally. Let's assume the Nigerians also have confidence in, of course, made in Nigeria products. What happens to the illegal import of cars from outside Nigeria? You did mention that as a major hurdle, and the fact that you're working with customs to curb the import of cars from neighboring countries. How best do you think this can be addressed in order for the local companies, to stand strong on their own? How do you plan to address this?
I think the first thing is that the purchase of money in Nigeria, people have already bought it, have been buying the money in Nigerian vehicles. The main attraction for the imported used vehicles is mostly because of financing. People have to save money and pay upfront 100%. So obviously, it's easier to buy a second-hand used car than to save enough to buy a new car. As for our programs to tackle smuggling, actually it is quite easy really to stop it, because vehicles are not like rice that is consumed. Vehicles have to be registered and have to ply the roads without registration. So it's very easy along the line to check. So what really happens is that the smuggled vehicles come in and registered with fake papers saying they have paid duty. So that's one of the other advantages. They tend to be used vehicles where duty is not paid, so they are much cheaper than if they come through the normal process. Already the Customs Service have asked the government to ban the import of vehicles through the land border, so that all vehicles must come in through the seaports. That is one. Two, we are working together with the Customs to see that the vehicle registration offices do not just accept papers that purport to show duty has been paid. They must check with the Customs Service that that particular car identified by its VIN number, VIN, or what we call Nigeria chassis number, is a unique identification for any car. That VIN number checked with Customs, that the duty has actually been paid before it is registered. And then if it is not paid, they have to go back to pay the duty to come back. So when we have these things in place, I'm sure the smuggling of vehicles will be drastically reduced.
Interesting. We'll just have to just wait and see how that also plays out. I've been speaking with Aminu Jalal, Director General of the National Automotive Council.